Hello, my name is Sophia Sen, and I am in Team 2 with the role of connector, and this is a logician's view. So starting off, we have personal experience, and this goes into the use of dilemma given two propositions. So an example that I thought I had went through, and also my friends as well in the past, is my parents debating on buying me a phone in seventh grade. Was I too young for it, or was I just in the right age? I believe that in seventh grade, if you are playing sports or doing other activities, you have to have a phone. Just because there's practice, you stay later on, or you have to go to school early for practice. And I believe having a phone at this age, it just works perfectly well to let your parents know how long you're going to be staying at the school and etc. It's a really good argument in the sense of a awkward predicament, and it just refers to a forced choice between two or more equally unattractive alternatives, as such as the parents thinking, oh, my child shouldn't be carrying a phone in middle school, when really it's just she needs it. Next is going to be community. Community is going to be talking about fallacies and group decisions in the neighborhood, the public policies, HOA, all that stuff. And it's most likely bandwagon fallacies. Starting off is every single house in our community should have decorative lights for Christmas. And then everybody needs to volunteer for neighborhood watch. These are things that are determined as a group, and it's always a group collective vote, I would say. Especially when you go into a more suburban neighborhoods, which I have been in, it's very strict on like neighborhood watch and just the decisions of making progress of the neighborhood. And the fallacies can influence outcomes for all these group discussions that are made. It might have some critical evaluation in a negative way by others, but it's mainly for the best. Next is school. So we're seeing math in math. So we have the formal logic. If A plus B equals C, then C plus D equals parentheses A plus B parentheses plus T. It's weird to think we have math in English right now. It expresses reality using symbols and variables. It's logical and underlying truth and useful in computer science. This formula pretty much expresses logical truth no matter what numbers you put into the letters. These variables can change, but not the underlying truth of the formula. So if the first proposition we're talking about is true, then the second one must be true. It's quite important. We use it in computer science often. And in computer science, we start off with binaries of 0 and 1 in video games and everything, and that's how the formal logic is built up. Okay, so next is connecting with the news. So I picked Mill's method of agreement, the news outlet we use for uncovering a thread. So my example, what I'm seeing is if multiple people got food poisoning in different cities, they'll investigate whether if it's the manufacturer or the distributor. And it's a really good method to think about because the news always have some sort of step in to every single outlet. It's a common factor in all the instances of a phenomenon, especially, in journalists all across the world. They use this method to uncover any common threads that you find to any events or any occurrences. Okay. Next, we're talking about the public. So the public is, we're going to be using induction, advertisements, weight loss company commercials. These are the perfect ones. I don't know if y'all remember like Jenny Craig's weight loss. This is pretty much what is summed up to be part of the induction. It's satisfying customers of how effective it is and reliable, implying this 3-month plan will help you lose 50 pounds. And it's going to show you multiple pictures of male and female losing 50 pounds or more, the before and after pictures, which motivates you to buy it because you're like, oh my gosh, I want to look just like that. So that's whenever customers are buying it, going on this plan, I think it's super effective, but it always turns out either for the best or the worst. Um, but it's a great employ inductive reasoning to persuade consumers, no matter what kind of commercial it is, even if it's a product, it's the same exact thing. Next is politics. Politics is pretty big on this too. So this is disjunctive is talking about persuading the community with policy options and commitment. This is like every single candidate, whether if you're running for mayor or the Senate, president, all that, all sorts of leagues, even your class president in school, because you're talking about these hopes and promises you're giving. And for example, is as your elected representative, I will lower employment and build shelters for the homeless because they always are making these promises that usually doesn't end up being true. Another example is them saying like I will lower employment by investing in infrastructure or small businesses, and then once the infrastructure investment is proven to create jobs, then I will focus on an approach to help everybody out. Next is everyday life. It stands for the less is more. It's a paradox, and I think the clutter is a really good example. The feeling of clutter in your life and resulting in decluttering your living space, simplifying your schedule and resulting in clarity. Everybody goes through this. Your room can be cluttered and you feel that has so much stress on you, you're depressed, and it just doesn't help you feel well with millions of things surrounding on you, and it helps your personal growth. It's a huge decision making, involves problem solving, critical thinking, and it's an informed decision to really better your life. It's highlighting the inherent tensions or contradictions within ourselves and our relationship. So next is TV shows. So for this, we are using reducto ad absurdum, and I chose The Office, which I feel like relates pretty well. So the character Dwight, known for his witty humor, can be a little intense and mean, super stressed. He uses reducto ad absurdum to challenge other characters in the office, and then uses it towards their beliefs or decisions, such as attacking Jim, Pam, Michael, and everybody else of what they have to say. And there's other shows that go into this, kind of like The Simpsons. It's similar to South Park. They often employ satire to critique society, and in some episodes, like characters engage in reducto to demonstrate the illogical or the consequences of certain actions or policies. Next is friendships, and friendships is good arguments are rooted in high quality reasonings. This is not something you want to be having conversation with your friends, obviously, but it also goes into like the root of like the premises, and the premises is true, the conclusion must be true. So, and a good example is if your soda was missing in the fridge and there's only one other person living in the house, it's obviously your roommate. You're using your logic to get to a conclusion and win the argument. And this is using methods of formal logic to demonstrate truth every day in our lives. Um, it's just you all conclude that you also have one other roommate, and that's the only person that could steal. And it's a good argument. You're rooted in high quality reasoning. There's not much evidence you can put besides the fact that these cans were yours and who else would be in the house. Exactly. So, lastly, we have some audience questions. What fallacies have you encountered in your everyday life? I've encountered ad hominem, sorry if I got that wrong, often when hearing others debate about one's merit to proposal, such as you're biased because you're her friend, which is very common and very used in this way of like, oh, like you're doing this and this because you're on her side, you're on this. And it appeals with emotions as well. Next I would be talking about is to add to that is appeal to emotion whenever you're going in with the ad hominem. This fallacy just involves manipulating emotions to distract from the straight facts or the logic of an argument we have here. Next is going to be what are the strengths and limitations of Mill's difference method? So I believe the strengths are clear identification by comparing situation or pointing out its causes and effects. The limitation is a struggle of complex variables and unable to isolate a single cause, sorry. And this method just emphasizes observations and evidence. It's more of a rigorous approach to investigating casual relationships, and it's really open to the real world situations and be in various fields as well. For like limitations, there's a lot of difficulty in controlling the variables with everything. Controlling for all relevant variables except for one under investigation can be challenging, if not impossible. And then the risk of false casual inferences, while the method of difference can provide valuable insights into casual relationships, which also is not immune to errors in the reasoning or false accusations and conclusions. And this is it. I hope y'all enjoyed.